Greetings, everybody. The following chat is with Krystal Roxx. Krystal is a London-based DJ, producer. She is the founder of a social enterprise that aims to get more women into music. She is also a coach, meditation teacher, and breathwork teacher. Multi-talented, wonderful woman. I met with Krystal at her place in London, and we talked all things TM, since she has been practicing for 2 years. Hope you enjoy it. You don't know what I'm going to ask you, which is all part of the surprise and the mystery. But there won't be any trick questions. What are you up to at the moment? What do you do these days?
What do I do these days? It's a very good question. I mean, mostly music. Yeah. It's all music. So I'm a DJ and producer, and I play records out live often. I also run a social enterprise to help get more women into music. So we have a DJ academy and a club night called Super Fox, which is great. That's sort of manifests as monthly parties, and the academy runs all the time. So we teach a lot of people and then we give them jobs. And I also teach yoga and meditation and breathwork. As a series that I developed called Go With The Floga, and it's based on vinyasa and dance, because prior to music and yoga I was a dancer and an actor, so I did that for the first sort of 15 years of my professional life, and I did theatre and television and lots of lovely things. My life is a circus. I realised that as I just read it back to you.
It sounds like super colourful.
It's very colourful, yeah. Yeah, super happily colourful. So.
And TM, Transcendental meditation. Firstly, how long have you been meditating, doing TM?
Almost 2 years. I was recommended by a friend to practice, to learn. I've been curious and practicing different meditation techniques for, I guess, the yoga journey was the start of that, which was probably 20 years ago. And I trained as a yoga teacher 8 or 9 years ago. 8. And through that, obviously, breath and meditation is, it's part of movement and yoga movement. And so then I came to TM quite naturally nearly 2 years ago. And it's been a really incredible asset to my life.
Okay. I'll come back to that. Can I ask, what space were you in at the time that you learnt TM that prompted you to take the course? What was going on and what was your motivation, as it were?
Well, I guess we had... if we look at what's gone on in the last 3 years, I've had a very interesting 3 years, as most of us have anyway, with the pandemic. And I went into sobriety at the beginning of that period of time. So there was a lot of rewiring going on, of which meditation is a key part of that. So I had used the practices that I was familiar with. But the mind was still busy, if not at times busier, because there was less distraction in my life. We were very isolated. And it was difficult to... My leading job is to play music live, which then became almost impossible. Although I did broadcast radio shows and DJ sets from my lounge. But in terms of being stationary, the mind was still super active, and I naturally am an ideas person and create. So it was, I'd like to say that I believe that we're always seeking, whether we know it or not. So there's no such thing as a coincidence in my book. I think it was completely correct that when it was suggested to me to study TM, it came at exactly the right time, and it was the thing that I found as a crucial tool to being able to maintain my incredibly active mind.
And you said you'd done like other meditations and yoga before, so this obviously did something different to what you were used to. Can you describe what that is?
I feel like feel like learning is an expansion always. So I always kind of liken it to having like a rucksack and putting more tools in the rucksack, and you're always expanding, and everything is always useful. It just is in varying degrees. So with the meditation, what the most useful thing was the mantra practice, and it was a very gentle way. There was no judgment on how to do. Obviously you're given very clear tools and principles to do the meditation, but it's sort of gentle and kind. So you can, when you're learning, there's no pressure, and I found that really useful. So when we were going back into busyness, in terms of physical busyness, I found it just so useful. I would anchor into it twice a day, mostly twice a day. That's the classic thing everybody says.
Mostly
isn't it?
is good.
Mostly
is good.
I don't do it, but gosh, more
mostly
often
works.
than not.
And what going back to when you learnt, so 2-3 years ago, what was your experience of the course? The 3 or 4 days. Did you enjoy the course?
Yeah, very much so. It was like a decompression. I learnt with Deirdre, and she was really kind and very, again, it was a very gentle space. And I just, I didn't know what to expect, but I felt very safe and welcome. And I just, I enjoyed very much. I didn't know what to expect. So as it unfolded during the session, I'm a natural, I want to know everything and learn more about everything. So it was great to have the follow-ups beyond the actual initial session. But that in itself was really profound. It felt very, very like a coming home. It felt like, okay, like I guess like it's a new school that I've just sort of signed up to. For like, there's a destination here of peace that I feel very welcome in.
Nice. And was your experience that it started working in quotes from the beginning?
Oh, it's a really good question. I've actually not reflected on that period of time, but at first you're just doing it without any expectation. And I found the app so useful, really so useful. So I was, also following along with all the guided videos and courses on there. And I remember, I think quite early on, because as I say, I was meditating in various ways, or transcendence I had an awareness of transcendence through movement and music, mostly through music, because it's such a transcending thing to do. It's very, illuminating. But so I started to have those flickers throughout my meditation.
During the meditation, or
during it? Okay. Yeah, and I checked in with Deirdre a few times and said, I think I saw. I never know, it's my active imagination or it's. I think I saw Ganesha at one point. I was like, is this correct?
On the tube? Was this?
No, quite during meditation. They were at the beginning. I was quite awestruck by how vivid things were. And bearing in mind, I'd been sober at that point 2 years. So I had, other than too many coffees a day, I had cleared the system out. So it felt like a portal almost. I think her advice at the time was to, just observe. Great. Nothing to gain, nothing to do, nowhere to go. So lovely. Is that shift in perspective that I find so anchoring in a place of just the real deal. It's the truth. It's like it has strengthened the muscle of loving awareness around me. So I'm like, oh gosh, I can't walk down the street without stopping to smell the flowers, because there's just miraculous. I'm such a hippie and I like it.
Proud.
I'm a proud hippie.
And what does it feel like to meditate?
It feels like a place of peacefulness, like a vortex opens up within my heart and soul where I can just hang out and feel liberated and observe. It is a moment for my nervous system to relax, for the cortisol and adrenaline to dissipate, like sediment in a glass of water, just dissolves back down to nothing. And my uniqueness and my truth become primary and not second, third, fourth and fifth, you know? They become the first primary space. That's my experience of meditating.
How do you find the time to meditate?
I struggle with the first thing in the morning, and it's something that is a challenge that I work with all the time, and that's okay. Sometimes it's their first thing. When it is their first thing, along with any sort of additional things like free writing and maybe chanting or anything like that, it's divine. I have a very big ego that says, don't do that, that won't work. I'm always wrestling with the voice that says, stop, you know, you're not good enough, don't do that, don't look at that. So that's what I sort of work with in terms of a morning practice, and much more, you know, using the momentum of getting up in the morning and just continuing out the door. But my first journey with TM has been interesting because when I first learned, and I had the mantra session and then the follow-ups, I was doing back-to-back shows in Selfridges in London, and so I would just take myself off to the toilet before I started work.
To meditate.
And then I thought, this is genius, because there's always going to be a toilet forever and nobody cares. So I just locked the door, put the app on for 20 minutes. And as we know, you know, if you get beyond the first 30 seconds, then it's a dream, because that's the challenging part. The first part, just sitting down. Once you do it, you almost don't want to stop because it feels divine, you know? So I would they're now called meditation cubicles for me. And I built up a framework of them there. Thank you, Selfridges.
Thank you, cubicles.
Thank you, cubicles.
You didn't get any strange knocks on the door?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, once or twice I did. Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, yeah, I'm fine. People don't care. So I carried on. And so I built that up as a framework, and it was really delicious, really fantastic. And then beyond that, I'll do it whilst I travel. I live a good 20 minutes on the Northern Line from in central London south. That has been a real glorious meditation space for me. Or I'll sit in a park and meditate. And I just find the app really, really useful because it's timed and easy. And you can integrate it anywhere. And if I can't do a full 20 minutes, then I will do 10. And I just don't ever give up on myself.
Brilliant.
Or when I do, I dust myself off and start again.
Yeah.
That's it. You just lovingly continue.
And what about, well, how's it changed you, meditation, TM?
Oh my goodness gracious. I don't know how people live without some type of sort of conscious, deliberate meditation practice. Because that is where my uniqueness lies, or my most aligned usefulness lies. And it's also where it's a tool that helps me put on the right pair of spectacles, my own prescription. It's just fun. I love hanging out in that space within me, which is peaceful and kind of magic.
And were you able to access that space right from the beginning, or did it kind of grow slowly?
Because of music and dance, I've always had a concept of it that I haven't even known to try to label it, or it's just me. So I'm lucky, I'm privileged that it is me. The joy of transcending through music or movement or da-da-da. Did I know that that's what I was doing? Not at all. It just felt great. And I thankfully have had enough opportunities and privileges to be able to continue in a space where I can be free. I can be free. It's the highest principle you could possibly have, I think.
So I think what I heard was that your what you're calling transcending, which is that inner freedom. We can maybe go on to what transcending looks like to you, but so you had tastes of it in dance, in music, and TM gave you a more sort of systematic way to achieve it. I don't want to put words in your head.
No, it's really well described. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's as joyful. It's as joyful there, and it's as necessary for me to find it at this point of my life, because what I do is very transcending, but you can't do that all the time. And it's important to find, or it has been important for me to find a space of peacefulness consistently, that is free within me. It's the biggest gift I could have been given, because it requires nothing but stillness and love, actually. Because I mean, we touched on it earlier, but the discipline, I feel like it's such a non-judgmental practice, and because there's no judgment, you can integrate what you what processing happens. I can integrate it from a place of peacefulness during meditation, and that's the sort of space that TM opens up, because there's no judgment and it's gentle, but it's clear. So because of that secret recipe, you can expand. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay.
Was that good? I don't know if I'm
good.
Absolutely.
It's good.
It's just my experience.
I have two questions about sort of the experience of meditation, but you have talked about it a lot. But let's take this word transcending that you've mentioned a couple of times, and also it's called transcendental meditation.
Sure.
What do you see? Could you describe what you believe that experience to be, and have you had it?
Yes, it's a sense of freedom, and that's all I feel that's all I should describe it as, because I think how would I possibly know what anybody else's experience is other than my own? But when I experience it, it's like a vortex that has opened up in my own heart space, and it becomes wide and iridescent and surprising. It's the truth. It's like I've got Disneyland in my heart.
Yeah.
It's like Technicolor, And
this is during the meditation?
Yeah. And it's not always... I'm always so curious these days with like what the formula is of happiness or peace or serenity. What is that formula? Because there is some magnetic sort of quantum... oh gosh, if I was a scientist, I'd be able to describe this properly, but I'm just a DJ. There's some type of thing that cracks open. I use it as a vortex. It's something that awakened within me, that I was like, wow, that's a place, a destination in my own heart. There's a destination in my own heart that's iridescent and available whenever I want to hang out there. How fantastic. Makes it difficult to leave the house sometimes. I mean, why would you bother? I'm joking. But you know what I mean? It's like, there's this joyfulness and this... it's just curious. I had experience with drugs and alcohol, and which I have successfully, one day at a time, abstained from for 3 years. And the closest thing I can find to that level of liberation outside of music or movement or dance has been that experience. And that's no longer a choice, nor would I want it to be. Now, this access for this thing, which I try not to grasp and cling on to and attach to, this is the curious thing of it all, because the deeper and the wider and the more vivid the experience, the more I want it, and the more it's important to disattach. So therein lies the magic of TM, because it's consistent, non-judgmental practice. So great, I'll just, it's like popping to the shops. I'm just going to go to my own internal Disneyland for 20 minutes.
And do you find that that it's not really a sensation. That inner experience percolates out into your life, or has it?
Surely it must have.
Well, I don't know. Has it?
I have people say I believe in like attraction is better than promotion, and I have people ask me how to meditate often. That might be now because I'm more verbal about it.
Oh, by attraction, I had to think about that phrase for a moment.
Yeah.
So you mean people are drawn to you because of what you
Yes, because
exhibit.
there is a light that then happens because you're switched on.
You're kind of walking around with it.
Yeah, it's a perspective. That's not to say that happens all the time. As I mentioned to you earlier, sometimes I have to check that have I brought a jacket with me today? Have I got trousers? Is it raining? Do I need an umbrella? I don't even have to really root down into reality. I'm not constantly in transcendence is the point. It's a flicker. It's a moment. And even throughout that 20-minute practice, it doesn't always happen. Mostly what it exists as, if there's not consistency, my experience is what it exists as is a lot of lovingly coming back.
This is during meditation.
Yeah. And, it's like, if you look at it too much, it goes away. It's kind of that sort of feeling. Like it's not something it's an observation. It's an awareness of the awareness. It's not attaching to it or doing it. The guidelines of TM allow the new language, which we can't really describe other than transcendence, right? Well, I can't describe very well, clearly, but it's that opens up this new processing. It's like suddenly discovering, like if you never knew what football was and then you suddenly saw football being played, you'd be like, wow, that's a whole thing. That's a flow.
So you have to create a new language.
Yeah, you have to clear the decks.
To encapsulate it.
Exactly. Clear the decks enough to learn the thing. But the thing is not, A plus B equals C. It's just the nothingness. And then whatever pictures your subconscious paints or whatever awareness and keys that come up. And there's nothing to achieve and there's nothing to gain and there's nowhere to go.
It's all here.
It's all here right now in this present moment.
How different do you think your life would be now if you hadn't started Transcendental meditation?
Gosh, it's hard to answer. How would I possibly know? I think I trust myself to have discovered a variation on a theme. I would have found something, maybe netball. I don't know. I don't know. But something would have happened because I feel a real capacity for like loving guidance outside of myself. So I'm drawn to, sometimes tough things to learn, sometimes joyful things to learn. But I would have found something. I needed something to lasso my crazy mind.
And did it do that?
Yeah. Biologically, what's going on in the nervous system, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but my experience is that the hormonal, chemical, adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine exchanges that are going on throughout the body during meditation settle. Like, if you're going to stir up a glass of water and there was sediment or mud in the bottom and you would stir it up, the process of TM feels like it allows it all to just settle. There's always there. There's always going to be mud there, but TM allows it to settle and just, feel peace.
It's good.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Is it useful or not? I don't know.
And, okay. Okay, I've got two more questions, and then I'm going to ask you if you've got anything you want to say on top.
Please.
So, if you could you sort of sum up in maybe 5 sentences, roughly speaking, what you've got from TM? What benefits you could encapsulate since you've learned 2 years ago?
An internal peacefulness, excuse me, an internal peacefulness that I can access whenever I want or whenever I feel guided to, which is for me like the keys to the kingdom. I don't know if I need to say anything beyond that really, but a way of being able to settle my nervous system and to allow my brain to not lead the way is the greatest gift. And I say that quite a lot to people. That's why I feel so inclined to tell people about it all the time, because it's just everything. It's the gateway into your truth. What else? 5 other things.
No, 5 sentences.
5 sentences.
No, not 5 things. 5 sentences. You did that was amazing.
Okay. Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I know that the experience will deepen, and I know that I do it very imperfectly. And I think it's really important to say that it's not, a slogan that I really like is that it takes great discipline to be a free spirit. And the freer I become, or the more liberated in creativity I become, paradoxically, the more disciplined I need to be, because otherwise I'm just dancing around in this lounge until I die, which is fine too. But I feel called to leave a legacy for other women, especially, to have access to their truth and their expression and their freedom. And TM is allowing that to become a reality, because it is a disciplined practice without judgment for me. That's my experience. So what a gift.
Do you, it's everything you've said so far has been reflected in your overall personal life. What about in work? Have you noticed anything specific with regard to work?
For sure, I'm more centered. TM is one component of some important mindfulness practices that I use, like yoga, like breath work. So, for example, I do lots of very high energy work. I DJ to crowds of people in loud environments that are very colourful. And so it takes some maintenance. It takes great discipline to be a free spirit. So in the toolbox, in the rucksack, if you like, there are things like breathing techniques and movement before or after to do some grounding. You wouldn't have the luxury to do a 20-minute TM just before you went on stage. Maybe you would. I haven't carved out that time. I'm highlighting that I could.
You need a toilet.
All I need is a toilet. You see? The TM... Cubicle
time. The cubicle is calling.
Is exactly it. See, you've mirrored back to me a solution. Because I never feel like I've got that 20 minutes before I go on stage. But listen, I'm not on stage consistently as much as I'd love to be. I'm not. I take that principle or the meditation practice wherever I go. And it's been really useful with different time zones as anchors. It's been really useful with... travel, with helping other people. And in my work, I'm certainly more centered.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the little chat with Krystal. If you're interested in finding out more about TM, check the link on this video, wherever it is, Facebook, YouTube, and you can find your nearest TM teacher.